I am Annette Lyon. I am pissed off. Welcome to True Crime, Faith, and Chocolate. This is not the video I intended to record today. I have been following the Daybell case and giving us a bit of a Chad Daybell primer the past week and a half, and today I intended to record about Lori Vallow and do a deep dive there, all in preparation for us to go into the Daybell trial, which begins April 1st for Chad. But today, this is Friday, the 22nd of March, a bunch of files dropped about the Ruby Franke case, and I am now pissed off. And so that's what we're talking about instead. So for the sake of just keeping with our theme, today's chocolate is a plain old Twix. I'll eat it later after we're done more ranting and throwing. Oh my gosh, I'm so mad. Let's just listen to one of the jail phone calls that was released today, and we'll do some commentary as we listen to this awesome tape. So the audio here is kind of coming from Hidden True Crime. I'll link them in the description, and definitely go follow them. We'll listen to this recording, and then we'll talk.
No, you had to put her in a chair. It was horrible. It was torturous last night, hearing the screaming.
Was it torturous? Was it, Ruby? It was torturous? Like how you tortured your children? Oh, you poor baby being in jail. Oh my goodness, that's so hard. Oh, you poor thing.
The banging at people is like, okay, that's upsetting. But the most upsetting thing is that I am completely misunderstood. That is the most horrible feeling.
That's the most upsetting thing? Is it, Ruby? That's the most upsetting thing? Not that your children have been tortured, but she's not even upset that she's not with her children, that they're away from her and no longer in her control or the supervision. The most upsetting thing is people don't understand me. Okay, I do get that on some level. Like, I've been misunderstood lots of times, and that's not fun. But there are so many things that are worse than that. And having my children be hurt would be, I don't know, pretty high on that list. Call me crazy.
Like, my own family misunderstands me. They misinterpret me. And poor Jodi, they misinterpret her. They misunderstand her. She puts her neck out on the line for people, and then they get mad at her. I mean, it is just horrendous. It's horrendous. And you know what? Every Joseph Smith, every wonderful man of God has had to be misunderstood.
Now she's still seriously comparing herself to a prophet. Like, are you freaking kidding me? And not just to any prophet, but to Joseph Smith, who is the founder of her faith and mine. Comparing yourself to a man who was literally assassinated. What? Like, oh, Ruby, like, no. No. And I'm not defending everything Joseph Smith did. There are issues there. That's another podcast. That's another channel. Not going there right now. But hello, Ruby, don't you even.
Maybe in 10 days I'll get out of this. If I'm, if truth prevails.
Yeah, if truth prevails. Glad that it actually did prevail. She's a lot longer than 10 days.
Right now, or, who knows, like 20 years? I don't know. I don't know how long. But I'm going to step out. I'm going to say I went through everything. I have seen God's children suffer. All the people here, my jail cellmates, have been beautiful women, but they've been hurt. They've been deceived into drugs. And
so this is one of the first times I'm thinking, oh, well, she has some compassion in her heart. She feels bad for the women who've been deceived by drugs. She's thinking that, like, her own children don't have emotions and feelings, and that I don't understand the level of the compassion goes. Let's continue.
My heart just has so much compassion for them.
Oh, but not for my own children.
And I have compassion for the cause, and I have compassion for myself, and then to be told that I'm suicidal, and like.
So notice that all the people she has compassion for, she not once mentions her children. You would think that she would have compassion for, even if, because she believed that they were like possessed with demons and crap, like hi Lori and Chad with the crap. Again, not part of our doctrine. There's no compassion for her children at all. I can have compassion for myself and for the police and for Jodi, but not for her children. They don't come up at all.
Like, no, that's not true.
Oh, not true that she's not suicidal, supposedly.
Anyway, if you need to let
That was either Sherry or one of your siblings.
Well, they're all in cahoots.
So, see, the Sherry or one of your siblings, well, they're all in cahoots. So basically, the whole world is against her. Everybody is wrong. You know, I don't know who Sherry is, but go you. Like, and anyone else who reported her and, you know, tried to get Ruby to be held accountable.
One means all of them, but yes, you're right.
He is 35 years in this, and he said even
the Utah law for the particular crimes that she pled guilty to, fortunately, she pled guilty to 4 counts, and each had a maximum of 15 years in prison per count, which sounds like, so it was 1 to 15. So it sounds like she had a possibility of 4 to 60 years, but Utah statute says that even if you're doing consecutive sentences for this particular level of crime, 35 years is the maximum. So he knows what he's talking about here, and I believe she and Jodi were both sentenced to the maximum, but that's 35 years maximum, not 60. As much as we would like that, a lot of it they will be eligible for parole much earlier than that. I have a suspicion that Ruby has a better shot at getting parole sooner than Jodi, because at least in the sentencing, Ruby expressed some regret and compassion at that point. But we shall see. Anyway, back to the phone call.
then if you are acquitted and are released, they will place legal restrictions on your access to the under 18 children.
Good.
I figured such. God told me when I was driving before I called you. I didn't have any information. I didn't know anything, and the Spirit said, your children are going to be removed.
This is probably the one thing I might believe her, that maybe her conscience finally kicked in and said, your kids are probably going to be taken from you. But, you know, who knows?
And I cried out loud. I'm like, no, I'm not done. I'm not ready.
Again, it's not about the kids. I'm not done. I'm not ready to lose control of her own children, who she has mistreated and has not taken care of as a parent should. I'm not ready. Again, it's all about her. There's so much more they need to learn, and who will protect them. They need to be loved, or there's nothing about them. It's always like, I'm not ready for them to go. That's what you say when your child is 18 going off to college and you're crying because you're not ready for it. This is her being completely and utterly selfish and wanting to control every aspect of her children's lives.
Satan has taken everything away from me that I love.
On the one hand, I could agree with that now. You know? Because I think if anyone was under control of Satan and deceived, it would be her. And she's lost a whole heck of a lot, but so have her poor children.
And I'm a good woman. I don't do naughty things.
I don't do naughty things? Who uses the word naughty? I don't do naughty things. She's calling her children, and we'll get to this in a second, because there were 60 pages of her handwritten journals that were released today as well. I will cover just some of the quotes, some of the excerpts in about the first 20 pages. Again, I'll probably do more another time, but it'll give you a feel for what's in there. But she calls them some pretty horrific things, and nothing about naughty. They're manipulative and evil, and get this.
I don't do naughty things. I'm a really good girl.
I'm a good girl. How old are you, Ruby? You're not a girl.
Ruby, I'm going to do everything that I can to keep truth in our family. And
thank you.
I'm committed to our family. I'm committed to you and our marriage, no matter what happens.
Thank you.
So I am grateful that Kevin at least has woken up enough to file for divorce. So he did not keep that promise, fortunately, but he was committed to keeping his family in truth. So hopefully that means he has had his eyes opened, that Jodi was a nightmare for their family. I don't think he's entirely innocent in this. I don't think he knew what all was going on, because Jodi had convinced him to separate from Ruby to save their marriage, because he was evil, and all the problems were because of him, blah, blah, blah. So he hadn't seen the kids in a year. I do think that is bizarre that he would trust Jodi that way. But I don't think he is as he was aware of how bad things were. So at least he has filed for divorce, and there's that. So yay for truth.
Thank you.
I will be here to support you in any way that I can.
Well, thank you for stepping up.
I do need to go.
The last little bit is just discussing logistics of the next phone call and whatnot. Let's go to the journals for a second. Those are lots of fun. This is from between May and August of 2023. Of course, I believe she was arrested on August 30th or 31st, something like that. So this right here is May 14th. So I'll be referring to the two children that are involved in this as E and R. That is what is listed in the documents. Their real names are, other people have published them. I will not be mentioning their real names. E is the daughter, the younger of the two. I'm not positive how old she was. I want to say something like 8 or 9. And then the son is 11 at this point. He turned 12 over the course of the summer. So she says that E refused to work, screams, has hair shaved off. Little girl. Awesome. July 9th. She talks about her son R. And this is when he turns 12. She goes, R turns 12 tomorrow. I never envisioned him being 12 and still pooping and peeing himself. Satanic choices lead one to becoming destitute, even in the most affluential homes. Okay. She's attributing the fact that he is pooping and peeing himself to being satanic, making satanic choices. Talk to a psychologist, woman. I thought everybody knew that if a child regresses in those things, there is some sort of trauma going on, some kind of abuse. It is an age regression. It is not a satanic choice, for crying out loud. The next day, she says, I told R he emulates a snake. He slithers and sneaks around looking for opportunities when no one is watching. And that he scurries. Like, I don't know about you, but there are things that were said to me as a child that I still remember that are seared into my brain. A kid who teased me in 3rd grade because my ears stuck out funny, and I will never forget that. Thanks, Mark. But like, if a mother tells you you are a snake, you are just like a snake, and let me tell you what you lie, and this, oh my goodness, that's going to leave a mark. She says, I invited him to fast and pray. Now, note that she is basically starving this kid. He was completely malnourished when the police found him. Fasting is something you see across many religions and cultures, right? It's often a spiritual practice, but it is intentional. So you don't just go without food. That's not fasting. That is just going without food. This is something that goes. I keep finding some parents of my faith who want so badly to have their kids, choose the right and follow and stay in the church and be the straight arrows and all that. They try to lock down the controls and control their children to the extreme. And the irony behind it all is that one of the biggest things that we believe in is the right to choose, that we chose to come to this earth, and we disavow the idea of having someone make our choices for us. And yet parents forcing their children to do these things very much against what supposedly you believe in just completely drives me bananas. And I'll also say every parent that I've seen with this, even not to the level of Ruby Franke trying to control their kids, because that's highly unusual, fortunately. But any parent I see that tries to control their children, the more they try to control them, the more the child rebels. The kids that I know that have rebelled against their parents and gone off whatever deep end you can imagine, whether it's drug addiction or whatever else, those are the parents. Pattern? Perhaps. And she says, R told me, this is so incredibly, you would think that this statement right here would have made her sit back and go, whoa, I need to recalibrate and reassess. Because R told me he would rather have a glass of water than me as his mother. Which tells me, A, he's dehydrated and desperate to survive physically, and B, she's a crap parent. This is a smart kid, actually. He is clearly understanding that she is not in the right. He records some of these conversations. So like she says, do you know I love you? And his response is, yes, ma'am. Do you know that Joe loves you? I'm assuming that's Jodi. I don't know why G. And he goes, yes, ma'am. Do you know the Savior loves you? Yes, ma'am. I don't know about you, but when my kids were young and I said I love you, The response was never, yes, ma'am. Okay. And anyway, and then she talks about the situation where, have you ever heard someone talk underwater? He says, yes, ma'am. I'm talking, that's probably how it is right now, because there's demons in you. And so you're hearing my voice through water, but I know you're still in there. And I love you. And so hear me. And then she says, and this is horrifying to me, then I put my hand tightly over his nose and mouth. And then she quotes herself and says, I am coming to you in this water and putting my hands on your nose and mouth. The devil lies and says, I'm hurting you, abusing you. But what am I really doing? You are putting oxygen on me to help me breathe. Yes, that's right. So he's parroting to her what she wants to hear. I know it sounds like I'm hurting you and I'm abusing you, but I'm not, am I? Yeah, suffocating her kid, that's abuse. He steals water from the house. Later on, he shuts down and says he wants to go to jail. And she's like, oh, he doesn't know what that means. He just wants a ride in an air-conditioned car. And I'm thinking, you know what? He probably realizes that jail's better than where he is now. At least he would have regular food and it wouldn't be blistering hot. And keeping in mind that she was forcing him to stay outside in St. George summer heat, where in July and August, the average temperature is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We're talking like 38, 39 degrees Celsius. This is hot. And oftentimes barefoot. We had blisters. He could only come in the house basically to use the bathroom. Even at night, he was forced to sleep outside. Like, what the heck, dude? Give your demon friend a message for me. I will not rest. I will not stop. I will not leave. I will fight him until the day you die. I have the power of God and he must obey. I beat Satan. I win. Then I looked into his eyes and with power and authority commanded, get out now, go. And then R immediately smiled, cried, slumped, softened. He's gone. He left. Now, of course, she thinks that she had cast out this demon. Her little boy understands that if he plays the game, and that will make mom happy, and then maybe I'll get food and water. That is just horrifying to me. There was a point where she talks about forcing him to go back out into the sun, and she had a cactus needle, and she was trying to poke him, and he wasn't responding to it. And that was just proof that he's possessed. And I'm thinking, no, it's proof that he's dissociated. It's proof that he's past the point of feeling these things because this is an abused child, clearly. It reminds me of orphanages in Romania that were so short-staffed that there were babies that didn't have contact beyond, like, here's a bottle and that was it. They weren't held or comforted and they stopped crying. Not because they weren't in pain, and not because they weren't hungry or not soiled or whatever, but because once no one is addressing your needs, you disassociate, right? That's an understood concept. But she interpreted his regression in potty training and all that, and then not responding to her need, literally poking him with a cactus needle, as being possessed. It just pisses me off so bad. I seriously got close to crying many times reading this, and I'm trying to hold it together right now. This is 300 miles or so south of Springville, where the family home is. This is Jodi Hildebrandt's massive, insanely huge house. It's like obscene how big and massive this thing is. Although it also has like a vault door to it. Some people have said that that's like a prepper thing to protect people, like a bomb shelter, but the lock is on the outside. So I think that was to keep people in. Anyway, so Jodi lives down there, and Ruby had brought her two youngest down there, possibly a third child. Some of the police reports that were released today seem to imply that there was another daughter there, but I'm unaware of any of that. It doesn't appear that there was a second daughter or a third child that was brought into the hospital or anything like that. But she asks her daughter E if she's made progress over the 8 weeks they've been in St. George, and her daughter says yes. And then her mother sort of says, I told her she was delusional. She's made no progress. She continues to lie and manipulate. And last night, her screaming and trance head banging were evidence of no change. We have her son dissociating and soiling himself. And then we have her daughter screaming and wailing at night. And then banging her head, she says, on the tile floor. And Ruby's like, oh, well, that's just the evidence that we need to do more of this because she's clearly possessed. No, this is what you do to distract yourself from emotional pain. It's like inflicting physical pain. This is like cutting and that kind of thing. It's like a physical thing to distract you from the psychological and emotional pain that you're going through. This poor little girl. Oh my criminy! Children are smart, and they tried to say things to make their mom wake up, but she's just not listening. E makes rhymes about, quote, "My mom starves me and calls it fasting. My mom won't lift a finger and bring me food because all she does is lie on the bed and eat brownies. My mom says she's the most loving mom in the world. Blah, blah, blah. If I can't ever go home, then what's the point in being obedient? I'm going to run away." And she even says, "These selfish children who only desire to take, lie, and attack have zero understanding of God's love for them." And I'm like, you know what? Your love as a parent, as a mother, is supposed to be, I don't know, at least a little bit similar to God's love. And of course, if they have no concept of God's love, because your example is completely heinous. And she says that, and then she's so incredibly insulting for children. She calls them fools. They are fools, truly. E said she would choose the devil over God. What arrogant spew. God is patient, not to split her with a bolt of lightning. You do not tempt God who controls your very breath. And this is the same woman who says God loves you so much. So if her children believe that God is like their mother, that's what love looks like, I'd pick the devil too. A loving God is just going to split you like a bolt of lightning. I think rather he would say, you know what? I think you're in pain. These children are in pain. Let's. Did Jesus ever do something like that? No. In fact, if anything, he said, you've hurt these children, and it'd be better for you to have a millstone around your neck. At one point, she says, the kids need a good kick from a horse and a cactus to run into. Now, it sounds like she's just being snarky. At one point, when she is talking to her son, who had slept outside overnight on the hot desert, which then turns very cold at night, and he was just on the ground, she says, what do you want? And he says, more different foods and a soft bed. Why don't you ask Satan? Do you think Satan will give you those things? He says, no. And then she says, why not? R says, because he doesn't have the power. Why would you serve a God who has no power to give you your desires? Dumb. Then he was silent to that. Someone had another episode with demons. She agreed to stop being deceptive with her facial expressions and crying and whining is the devil's voice. I reminded E that if she whined, cried, or squinted her eyes at me or soured her face, I would be buzzing her hair. If she is going to act sick, she can look sick. This is a child. She's not allowed to have a facial expression that her mother disagrees with. This is her talking to R again. You like sleeping on the ground? I slept in a soft bed. And he goes, I slept really well. And then she goes, you're mean. Do you enjoy being mean? How is it being mean to say I slept well? You made me sleep outside, but I slept well. And that's being mean. You're mean, or do you enjoy being mean? He replies, yes, ma'am. Do you expect me to feed you? She asks. He says, yes. And then she goes, I got big over him and says, I will feed R. She's talking to him. Yet she's talking like in third person. I will not feed a demon. So I will check on you in a bit. And if you want food, then be prepared to tell the truth about your behaviors. And then she finally brings him dinner and says, are you going to acknowledge the woman you've been abusing? You have been abusing? What? High projection. Anyway, that just brought you dinner. And then he said, well, I would say thank you, but I wouldn't really mean it. See, her kids they're smart. They're clever. They're quick on their feet. And she's just cruel. He was reaching down, grabbed his dinner and water and said, wow. So he didn't get his dinner that night because he admitted that I could say thank you, but I wouldn't mean it. I mean, and that's just like, literally that's the first 19 pages. Just a few excerpts from her journals. The level of messed up in her brain, I hope she gets a long time. And I really, even more than that, I really hope that her children can get the therapy and the help that they need, because they have a lot of healing to do. I don't know that Kevin is the one to be taking care of them at this point, since he didn't step in when things were bad. He also didn't know how bad they were necessarily. And that's not even all that she did to them. I didn't go into the other physical abuse and whatnot that the kids were undergoing, in addition to being starved and being forced outside. If you haven't seen it yet, you can go look up the body cam footage from when the police first responded. I believe it was E who was in the bathroom closet and was too scared. One thing I thought I was very impressed with, though, was the police report talks about how she didn't want anyone to touch her. She was afraid, and no one touched her. She was allowed to walk out, get onto the gurney, and then they put the gurney into the ambulance. But they honored that, which I thought was so incredibly passionate for a girl who has had so much of her own autonomy stripped away by her mother, to have the police and the EMTs and hospital workers to be cognizant that she is a victim of trauma, and that to give her that autonomy. When they said, well, we're going to take you to a hospital, she was afraid of that because Jodi would be mad, and that Jodi says that they're going to give her a vaccine and that will kill her. Forget the fact that she has open wounds, but whatever. The probable cause documents, the seeing how many units were dispatched, how quickly they responded, how long they were at the house. I think in the course between about 11 a.m. and 4-ish p.m., there were something 15 different units, 1 medical and 3 police, it looked like, that responded immediately, and then others throughout the day, various search warrants and whatnot. But the whole thing is just heartbreaking. And always something else we learned is that it was news to me, that when he escaped through the window, and there was the man who made the 911 call saying there's a boy here asking for food and water. Apparently another neighbor later reported on our security system, we recorded this boy coming to our house and ringing the doorbell before he went to the other neighbor, and we weren't home. And we felt we didn't know if this was important to the investigation, but we wanted to pass it on. So he went to at least one other home before he got to the sweet man who was able to help him. And if you haven't heard that 911 call, do, because you hear this old man who's, he gets choked up because he sees this poor boy who was so malnourished. And there's video now, the body cam of him in the ambulance, and his face is blurred out and that kind of thing, and his wounds are too, but you can see how skinny his legs are. His legs look like his forearms. About what they should be, that they are he's emaciated. As a parent, as a mother of faith, as a woman who supposedly shares the same faith as Ruby Franke, how dare she do any of this and do it in the name of God? No, it is not okay. Because of how she tries to couch everything as, oh, demon said this and blah, 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 blah. I think it might be relevant sooner than later for me to do a video about who coauthored is, because that's relevant in the Lori Vallow Daybell case as well. I think we can learn from that, and that might be helpful for people who are not familiar with my faith or the Book of Mormon and all that. I've heard coauthored being referred to as that's like calling someone the devil. Well, actually, it's a lot more complicated than that. Evil, yes, but in a very sinister kind of way. So, anyway, that's it for this edition of True Crime, Faith, and Chocolate. We'll turn to Lori soon, unless we have more breaking news about something like this. So, in the meantime, enjoy your chocolate and your true crime.